A very warm welcome back to your latest aviation news recap. Today there is coverage on the Boeing 737 MAX, which does return to headlines, two major airline expansions, one at Korean Air and one at Aeromexico, and lastly an airline that will be shutting down as early as March 2024. But beginning right off the bat with Boeing and their 737 MAX, where per Reuters, the American aircraft manufacturer is eyeing a pretty substantial increase in production for the MAX series looking ahead. By July 2025, Boeing wants to increase production of its MAX towards 57 units per month. Yes, you heard me correctly, 57 total units. Such an increase would set a record for the plane maker and highlight the strong resurgence seen with the series since its reintroduction from pandemic-related difficulties and also the crisis that it experienced following two significant incidents and a long-term grounding. Many questions arose during the late 2010s and early 2020s about the recovery of the 737 MAX within the industry and whether or not it would have a long-term future given everything that it had faced. The pandemic, really paired with this crisis, presented a massive discussion over the appetite for the plane and whether it was still present. However, since its widespread reapproval to regions globally, airlines have flocked back. Pair that with the resurgence in demand, while committing to the type for long-term flying is becoming the new norm for airlines right around the globe. With the strong backlog and also continued interest and also commitment, Boeing really wants to reposition itself to meet this demand by increasing production where possible. However, following our general emergence from global restrictions, increasing production on aircraft, despite something manufacturers want to do, has been more challenging than ever. Why, you may ask? Well, this stems directly from strains on supply chains, labor shortages, and also a lack of experience, which is especially being seen at the American plane maker, per my sources. Two sources that work closely with Boeing and Reuters were the ones that reported the increase that would reflect the company's ambition for the type looking towards the back end of this decade. Over to Aeromexico, where they've announced a big expansion to the United States with 17 new routes. The gradual introduction of new services comes from the Aeromexico and Delta Joint Cooperation Agreement, or JCA. From January 2024 onwards, 7 airports in Mexico will reach 9 destinations within the United States because of this agreement, and Delta, the major US carrier, will be code-sharing on these services too. By the summer of 2024, so towards the midway point of the year, Aeromexico says it will operate nearly 60 daily flights towards the United States to a staggering 36 total destinations. However, as part of the overall Aeromexico Delta JCA, there will be 90 flights offered across 60 routes. This really highlights the collaborative effort and the fantastic benefits to customers as the pair really look to reinforce their commitment to the cross-border alliance. The future growth will bring the two airlines closer and also the two respective countries with more seamless connectivity for customers, which is always a big win. On your screen now, you'll be able to see the routes that Aeromexico will be launching from January 2024 onwards. Each of these routes will gradually begin and be hugely important to their future plans. Most of these routes are slated to be operated by the 737 MAX, and all of this has been made possible thanks to its renewed fleet of now more than 50 brand new aircraft. It's very exciting times for Aeromexico and very exciting times for connecting Mexico to the United States. On to an airline shutdown, which is always unfortunate news, but I'd argue that this one has been a long time in the making, and it is certainly not the first to have heard of this, but rather that all-important firm confirmation that we have required. Air Malta will officially close in March 2024 and make way for a new national airline. Malta's government will close the carrier in a pretty similar fashion to Alitalia's departure from the industry that turned into the birth of ITA. Essentially, Air Malta will see a replacement arrive immediately. This is per the Prime Minister of Malta, who noted that Air Malta continues to be a loss maker, and thanks to this, among many other reasons, there is no point in continuing to persist with it. Malta, though, does believe that it is essential to have an airline for enhanced connectivity and to meet future growth. However, with Air Malta really struggling for some time, and again taking a look at what has happened with ITA, the vision with this new national carrier is to put in additional funds. But a real fundamental stumbling block for the current Air Malta was the refusal from the European Union to continue adding fresh state aid into the company. Malta believes they were given no choice. Talk of shutting down the airline, like I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, has been a long time in the making and has been highly discussed. But this announcement is a lot more thought out, with now official plans for a relaunch coming into the picture. Per Cerium, Air Malta currently has a fleet of 9 aircraft, all spread across the A320 family, and this does include Neos. Looking ahead, however, the airline will view 8 Airbus A320 Neos as the perfect launch pad from March 31st, 2024, when this new airline is slated to launch operations. The new national carrier will look towards being profitable for the long term and sustainable on its own, without further backing required from the government. A lengthy and ambitious process, but one that there is firm belief can be achieved. Lastly, there is coverage on Korean Air that have announced plans to expand for the upcoming winter season. Service resumption and additional capacity increases to China, Japan, Southeast Asia, North America, and the Oceania region will all occur. Korean Air notes that frequencies to Auckland and Brisbane will move to daily. This will occur during the busy winter period. Meanwhile, Las Vegas will increase to 5 times per week. Bangkok, Manila, Delhi, Kathmandu, and much more will also see increases. Taking a look at Osaka and Narita, these will both move up to 4 daily flights. Nagoya will see 17 weekly flights. Meanwhile, there will be service restoration to key cities within China, as they do see fantastic recovery. Korean Air says it is experiencing a great period at the airline, with its seat capacity when measured by ASK reaching 85% of pre-pandemic levels. But the belief with these major schedule changes is that across the winter season, and thanks to these increases, the expectation is it will grow to over 90%. As you may be aware, carriers in the Asian space definitely faced some of the toughest restrictions during the global pandemic. So while your major US carriers and even those within Europe have been able to expedite their recovery far quicker than maybe some may have imagined, your Asian carriers have lagged. With that being said, and now given the time that has passed since these countries have reopened, we are seeing solid levels of recovery. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. If you have absolutely any thoughts, you can let me know down below in the comments. It'd be greatly appreciated if you haven't already to also subscribe to the channel, as you know what I'll say now, same time, same place tomorrow. I'll be back with the latest industry developments in a long form video. Thanks a lot for watching, take care and be safe, and I'll see you then.
And we'll fly.